Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Quentin Campbell toka wingua, e honongo o te raki Northern Regional Alliance ACE RMO, no mai, haere mai, welcome along. Today's ACE RMO webinar is brought to you by Gisborne Hospital. So I hand over to our DHB and RMO representatives to introduce themselves, and we'll move along with the webinar. At the end of the discussion, we'll open up the room for questions and answers. So I'll hand over to you, Whānau.
Kia ora everyone, my name is Natalie Atkinson. I'm the RMO coordinator here at Tairāwhiti Gisborne Hospital. I've been in this role since 2010, previously in Southern DHB, so pretty experienced, and I'll let Emily introduce herself.
Kia ora koutou, my name's Emily Curtis. I'm a PGY2 house officer here at Gisborne. I've been here since PGY1.
Kia ora, I'm Harrison. I'm a first year RMO here at Hauora Tairāwhiti here at Gisborne Hospital. I'm currently on my general surgical attachment, and I did my in my second quarter, and I did my first quarter in general medicine. I had previously spent some time here whilst I was a student in paediatrics, and I really enjoyed it. I got to know the rest of the house officers here and saw the opportunities that they got, and you know, the relationships that they got to form working a lot of the time one-on-one with the bosses, and that was something that I was really interested in. It's a very high needs community as well, and I think that you could see that all of the house officers found that rewarding, and that's definitely something that I've found to be the case so far this year. The RMO unit here I knew to be really supportive. They already had the 10 and 4 rosters in place before it became a nationwide thing. The workload is very manageable. Here in Gisborne, every quarter you do 2.5 weekends and 11 long days. You get 4 rostered days off, which always falls next to a weekend, so you get 2 long weekends a quarter, and it's quite nice here because they don't get deducted from your pay. The rent is really cheap here, and you can live in really nice places, you know, walking distance from the beach or on the beach. Definitely found the lifestyle here 10 out of 10. For a large portion of the year you can surf before and after work, which is pretty unbeatable. Also there's lots of really nice tramping around, and Gisborne's quite a sporty place, so if you're into sport there's lots to do.
Kia ora, I'm Sarah, one of the PGY2s at Tairāwhiti DHB in Gisborne. I chose to work at Gisborne Hospital because of the fun experience I had on a GP placement up here in training intern year. I've loved it from the time that I first arrived here with the great people and the great community in Gisborne. This is also awesome outside of work, living in a beachfront house with a group of other house officers, making great friends with the other house officers in Gisborne, and the experiences up at the hospital, surfing, trips up the coast, and fun times on the weekends.
I te rangi te maunga ko uawa nui a roa matua te awa, ko te atanga hauti te iwi, ko Kiriana ki nipi a hau. Kia ora, my name is Kiriana. I'm a PGY2 here at Hauora Tairāwhiti, and I'm currently on the paediatrics run. First year here I really enjoyed it. I did 6 months of Gen Med, Gen Surg and Orthopedics, and it was all really good. We didn't have registrars last year, but we now have medical registrars, and we've got the one surgical registrar. So last year I got lots of opportunities to do things kind of with the consultants one-on-one. I think having the registrars here this year is actually a bit of a benefit as well, because it means you don't have to call the consultant straight away. You've got a bit more support, kind of a next step up there, but you still get lots and lots of opportunities to see patients. Second year runs that I'm doing this year, I'm doing 6 months of PEDS, including the Diploma of Child Health through Otago Uni and APLS, which was all supported by the hospital. And I'm also going to do 3 months of ED and 3 months of relief. I think what attracts a lot of people to come here is you get an anaesthetics and ED run if you choose to do that, which a lot of people enjoy. You get to do intubations and lots of time in theatre.
So take a leap and move to Tairāwhiti DHB.
So I was just going to talk a little bit about how many interns we take every year, which is 10. That we were going to increase, but we're sticking with 10 for next year. The ranking process is that there's 6 of us on the panel, and we all rank individually, and then we collectively rank. And that's the final ranking that's submitted back to ACE. So the panel has the Chief Medical Officer, a clinical director, 2 of the PESers, pre-vocational educational supervisors, myself and a local GP, who also started his career here at Tairāwhiti. So what we look for, what's most important, we base a lot of the ranking, quite frankly, not really on the marks or presentations or awards. It's a lot of it's based on the cover letter, quite frankly. It's very important, it's essential that you have a cover letter and just 1 page, because we have hundreds of applications. So it's a lot of time to rank. So we're just basically looking at the first page. Everything you need to say, you can say in 1 page, basically. Just very simply, why you want to come here. It's good to mention if you know someone that works here, if you have family, if you're from here. That's certainly a priority, and it is a priority. We try to get Maori doctors, but because of the high population of Maori here. But it's not, obviously, it's not essential. And also, if you've got family in neighbouring regions, it's good to give us an idea of whether you've been here or not, even if it's on holiday, just so that you know what you're getting yourself in for. It's quite isolated, Gisborne, so you know that's its strength, but it's also a weakness in lots of ways. So what we want to know is your support base while you're here. Obviously, you lean on each other because you're all going through the same thing at the same time. But you know, like having family, say in Hawke's Bay or in Bay of Plenty, you know, in Tauranga, it's handy to zoom up and down on weekends, etc. We do actually get quite a few that a group of friends that come in. We do take couples, but we only ever rank 1 couple because it's a small roster of 10. So it is unfair on the others because couples obviously want to work the same shifts, weekends, and have the same leave periods off. I'm just going to ask Emily, could you tell us why you chose Tairāwhiti and why you felt it was a good choice?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I actually hadn't been to Gizzy until I found out I got the job here, so it was a little bit of a leap. But I knew I wanted to work in a smaller centre. I'm from Northland, Kirikiri, and I'd done a couple of placements in smaller centres as a student, and just looking to work somewhere that I was hoping I'd get a bit kind of more hands-on experience, and looking for that work environment where you're in a close-knit team, hopefully working quite closely with your bosses, that sort of thing. And then I also really ideally wanted to work in a centre that was close to the coast. So Gizzy ticked quite a few boxes for me, and I've got absolutely no regrets about my move. I really love it here, and there's heaps to do, which I'll talk about a little bit later on.
Good. So just a little bit more, once you've, just to let you know, with the ACE processes with our DHB, I don't allow personal visits anymore because it is really sort of unfair on those TIs that can't make it for whatever reason. And it is supposed to be a fair and transparent process based on paper application only. So just to let you know that. And we are a DHB that at no time interviews. So as I said, it's all done on paper. I think there may only be a couple of DHBs that do interview shortlist for those candidates when they're ranking back through the ACE process, but we don't, just to let you know. I think with the change of training year, when you are, you know, if you are matched to us and accept, then there's a lot of onboarding correspondence that I get underway basically straight away. And everything has to be sort of organised and sorted for before Christmas. Obviously, you get your roster 28 days in advance. but the orientation itself is a week-long orientation. So we're now including in that a Tikanga best practice workshop, which everyone does. It's mandatory now for all staff, all clinical staff, and that's a new thing. You do an ACLS course and about 1.5 days shadowing on the floor, and then you do an overnight marae stay up the coast, which everyone loves. Yeah, great experience for everyone. Just to understand the patients and where they're coming from and get an idea of the region. And it's basically downtime for you all to get to know one another before you hit the floor running. So just a bit about the choices you get as PGY1s. General medicine, general surgery, so 4 in general medicine, 4 in general surgery, and then there's 2 in ortho, and obviously you don't have to do ortho, but if you do choose that as an option, otherwise you just repeat either gen med or gen surg. It goes in accordance with what your career interests are, which is also something that you could include on your cover letter. How did you find your first year, your choices, Emily?
Yes, I was initially down to do 2 med runs, a surgical run and an ortho run, but just with COVID fell kind of in my ortho run, and I ended up doing mostly 6 months of surgery and 6 months of med. Really good kind of basis, I think, for your first year. You get just a really good core coverage of the basics. On surgery, you have 4 different teams. You stay with one boss for the entire run. We've got a couple of surgical registrars. Previously we had one, we had an extra one start this year. So probably a little bit less opportunity to do hands-on stuff in theatre than there was previously, but comparatively probably still a lot more opportunity than you get in bigger centres, particularly if your bosses know that you've got a surgical interest. They'll definitely go out of their way to give you opportunities where they can, and then when you're covering surgery on a long day, you're normally first assist on any emergency procedures, C-sections, that sort of thing. So pretty good experience there. In terms of medicine, if you're doing more than one medical run, you'll also do half of a run on rehab, where you cover the rehab ward and the psych ward. So there's a little bit of variety there. And we've got a full complement of med regis now, which is really great in terms of support. So really well supported now. When I first started at the beginning of last year, we still didn't have quite a full reg roster, and it did make things a little bit more stressful, but you're very consistently going to be reg now on, which is great for learning and great for support. And then orthopedics, again, I didn't really get to do my run, but how they work, so it's a kind of big team of orthopedic surgeons. There's five orthopedic surgeons and 2 house officers. So what you normally do is a week on, week off in theatre as the first assist, and then a week on the wards, managing the ward patients. So again, some really good theatre experience there, and no registrars. So your time on the ward, you end up actually getting a lot of medical experience as well, because it's kind of, you're managing all the medical sides to the patients in the ward. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed it.
Right. So for PGY2 runs, your options are ED, paediatrics. You can do diploma of child health. Relief, there's an anaesthetics run, which is kind of very popular. But interestingly, this year, only 4 hours for the next year. And we have community-based attachments, which will be mandatory for you all to complete in your 2nd year in order to get your general scope endorsement removed. So at the moment, we've got GP. There's 3 practices in town that participate in that. And then there's a public health combined with a rural GP run, which is quite good. I think it's about half an hour out of town, isn't it?
Yeah.
The practice. So you're 3 days in the rural GP and 2 days at public health department, which is I think, quite interesting. That's become quite popular. So I think for you, you've done GP and you're doing relief, aren't you, Emily?
Yeah, so I've just come off my GP run, which was really a really valuable run, I think, just to get to see the other side. And then I'm on relief at the moment. I go into pediatrics next and then ED. So I kind of wanted to get more of a breadth of experience this year, which I'm really looking forward to.
So just a little bit about the roster. If you listen to Harrison, 11 evening shifts per quarter and 2.5 weekends per quarter. We run safe hours roster no matter what union you belong to. That's very important for us. So even if you're in Stones, you still work 10 days on, 4 days off. So it's 2 full weekends, and then the third weekend you either work the Saturday or the Sunday. So that makes up the 2.5 weekends. The salary category, it goes by the majority. So if you do come to us, you'll be offered under the Stones, because that is the majority of house officers are Stones. It's a category D, so it's 92,900 per annum, just to let you know with that. Just a little bit about the region. I'm sure maybe all of you have been here at one stage or another, possibly for R&V. But it's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful region. What I like about it, being a South Islander, is the isolation. There's less people here, which I really like. But, you know, there's plenty of places to go away for the weekend. I think all the docs become pretty good friends and go off and do tough girl and tough guy and all those crazy things in neighbouring regions. And, well, you'd probably be able to talk more about what you do for fun here.
Yeah, yeah, Gizzy, I have to second that. I think Gizzy's a pretty amazing region. I was a bit shocked by the kind of geographical isolation when I first moved, but you kind of pretty quickly settle into being here. If you love the coast, it's just a phenomenal place to live. A lot of us live out at the beach at Wainui or in town here. You just got amazing water access. Lots of keen surfers come to Gizzy, and even if you don't come a keen surfer, I think most people leave keen surfers. So that's pretty cool. Really tight-knit crew here of the RMOs. Yeah, so great mates amongst us. And it is our kind of main support network when you first start, unless you've got whānau in the region or close by. So we spend a lot of time together. And yeah, I think Harrison mentioned in the video, there's lots of great outdoor stuff in general. So we've got the Te Urewera National Park here with Waikato Moana, Great Walk, which is pretty close by. There's some tramps in the Waiweka Gorge, which takes you through kind of to the Opotiki region. And then there's a few walks up the coast as well. But people don't come here for the kind of bustling town city life. But there are a few kind of nice places to eat. There's some great cafes. We play a lot of sports, some social, some not so social. Yes, there's lots to do, and the airport here is very functional with multiple flights a day, so it is easy to get in and out if you need to. So all in all, a really great place to live.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. Probably the couple of things I think we excel at here. The cultural aspect of healthcare is not just a tick box exercise, it's a real living thing, and as it should be. And I think the clinical learning experience, I think, seems to be what a lot of the docs say they really love here. Even with now having 9 med-regs and 2 surgical registrars, a psych reg and an ophthalmology reg, there is still not the hierarchy that you get in some of the big DHBs. Yeah. So, you know, there is lots of one-on-one opportunities to learn with consultants and now registrars. And I think just it's a great place to come and start your career, really. It's good weather, being a South Islander. Yeah, I wouldn't shift back because you get used to the nice summers here, really, and the relaxed I'd say it's lovely and relaxed.
Yeah, it's a very relaxed vibe.
But you don't want your medicine to be too relaxed, but it is, yeah, nice and relaxed. So I think that's probably it. But if you want to know more, the information sheet, the ACE homepage, you probably know all this. Click on employer information, contact information, and then our DHB, and then information sheet. All of what I've talked about is on that. Or flick me an email, my contact details are there, and I can answer any questions for you. I think that's about it, Quentin.
Awesome. What's the food like down at Gisborne?
You're pointing to me immediately.
Yeah, well, I'm not in the cafe.
There's some excellent coffee in Gizzy, which was, I have to say, I was a little bit worried about when I first moved here. But no, there's a couple of excellent spots for coffee. There's a few really nice restaurants. It's not the main attraction in Gisborne, it's for sure. But it took us a little while to find the posies, but there are a few really nice posies to eat. There's also some beautiful vineyards here. The viticulture scene is quite big in Gizzy, so we get around to some of the vineyards quite often. Yeah,
they've just started up with Gisborne Beer Festival, so it was in December, it's moved to Easter now. So and then of course the Food and Wine Fest in October, the Labour Weekend, and then of course R&V. So yeah, it's you know, it has a few events here which are nice, but yeah. It's the food is. Were you asking about the hospital food, or you're talking about the food?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the hospital food for sure. I mean, is it palatable? I guess at the end of the day, as well.
Definitely palatable.
Yeah.
We don't have the variety that you get in bigger places, but at the end of the day, it's free food. I just find it kind of hard to complain about, to be honest. So yeah.
In terms of accommodation for people that don't have any ties to the region, if they are matched to Gisborne, do you have any social network groups that advertise within the community with regards to accommodation? What other options are there for the
I have to say, in the time I've shifted here, 2010, it was very easy for docs to get accommodation, but it's the same all over New Zealand. But probably in the last 3 years, I've noticed that docs are finding it harder to find somewhere. But they do find, and a lot of the docs hand over the properties, don't they?
Yeah.
To the next incoming lot, if they can.
So I think Nat will often email out to people if people are looking for accommodation, just to see if anyone's heard of anything. The rental market, like everywhere else, is actually really hot in Gisborne at the moment, particularly if wanting to live at the beach. But things do pop up periodically, and there is an element of being able to kind of hand properties over to groups rolling through. So it's definitely doable. And there's hospital accommodation available when you first move. If you haven't got anything teed up, you can stay there until you find something, which is pretty good. Yeah.
What's the price of a 2-bedroom rental property, say, in Wainui?
So we're in a 4-bedroom at Wainui at the moment, and we are paying $800 a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So So it's, I mean, I think for where you're living, it's pretty amazingly priced. You'd be paying an arm and a leg for something like that, I think, in the bigger centres. Yeah.
That's a definite plus. And the Udawetas are in your backyard as well, which that's an amazing place to explore, especially Waikari Moana, just a majestic place in New Zealand, you know.
It's a beautiful part of the world for sure. One of the questions is there anything in particular you can do to increase your chances of being selected? Well,
in particular, make sure that like at least a couple of your references, I would recommend a hospital-based. We did have someone that somehow managed to give us 3 community-based references, and it wasn't really good. We want at least one from a hospital. If you've been here in an attachment of any sort, then it would be nice for it to be one of the local consultants, if possible, but obviously it's not always possible. But yeah, no, apart from that, just I guess a good cover letter. The other thing I probably would ask you to do, if you do rank us, and obviously you're not allowed to tell us where you've put us, but just send me an email anyhow to just say, maybe I watched the webinar, decided to rank you, and so I file all those, any correspondence that I get from TIs. And as I'm ranking, I go back through, and it's amazing how much I remember, you know. So I guess if you're really keen, that's something I suggest that you possibly could do.
Yeah, we strongly encourage all applicants who are serious about any particular DHB or hospital that they apply to rank them first. And the reason why that is as the hospitals rank those applicants, they will have a higher chance of being matched to their hospital the higher that they rank that particular hospital or DHB as well. The other thing as well, while you're talking about references, it's just a reminder to the TIs, which we've done in our presentations and it's on the website and things like that, is that we really do prefer that each TI requests a reference from a different run allocation so that you guys can have a good idea with a variety of clinical settings that they've worked in their 6th year as well. So
Yes.
three references from community is not good nationwide, not just for Gisborne, but nationwide.
Yeah.
Do you have to do an anaesthetics run, which you don't? So there's 4 spots for an anaesthetics run, which are normally in hot demand. It's more likely that you'd want to do a run, and in fact it's oversubscribed. But so no, you don't have to do an anaesthetics run. That is one of the draw cards, I think, for a lot of people for coming to Gisborne.
Yeah,
it's not often that you're able to get some anaesthetic experience as a PGY too. So
yeah. Just in line with that as well, in case you're wondering, we don't have an ONG run in the 2nd year, unfortunately. Gynae only is covered as part of a component of a gen surge run. But I believe you get to assist, don't you, in elective Caesars and things like that?
Yeah, so if you're on the surgical team that covers the gynecology sub-spec, then you do you're the first assist on their elective Caesar day, and then if you're the surgical house officer on call after hours, you'll be the first assist on any emergency Caesars as well. But no formal ONG run, but we do work with the ONG consultants quite closely on surge.
Yeah.
Do you still feel well supported on long days, weekends, without as many people on call as other centres? It's a good question. I think at the beginning, for most people, it's a pretty big leap step up to start with, and you can't deny that it's a stressful transition initially. I think now that we've got medical registrars, we are so much more supported. And initially, when I first started, you didn't know whether you were going to have a registrar on your long day or your weekend. Now you're kind of fully staffed, so you've always got that interim level of support. On surgery, you may or may not have a registrar on call with you, but the bosses are incredibly approachable. They've spent their whole careers in Gisborne working without registrars, essentially, so they're really used to working with the house officers very closely, very approachable, very available. So it is a scary step up, but I think you get really good learning. You learn how to deal with the pressure quite quickly, and I do think we are pretty well supported these days compared to how it has been previously.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Just further to that, there is plans from 31st of January next year that the med-regis change for a shift roster. So that will mean from a Monday to a Thursday, there's 2 med-regis on from midday till 8 p.m. and then there's a further med-reg goes through to 11:30 at night. Then the other med-reg starts at 10:30 at night, overnight. So that would definitely be, I think, further support for the house officers as well, which is quite good.
Yeah, Next question, are all the community runs in Gizzy or are there ones in surrounding areas? They're all in Gisborne, our community-based attachment. So 3 of the GP placements are all in town, and then the rural placement that Nat was talking about is out in Te Karaka, which is about 20 to 30-minute drive out of town.
Just with the community-based attachments, I think there's plans as well for a mental health CBA to be created, just to give you guys a little bit more choice with your CBAs.
Is there much of a yo-pro culture outside of the hospital? I was actually really surprised by how many young people were in Gisborne when I moved here. I don't know about yo-pro necessarily, but there is definitely
is that young professional?
Yeah, a community of kind of similar age people around. Lots of younger people working at the council here in Gisborne, and obviously a big time kind of surf community of people of similar age. So definitely a lot of people to connect with outside of hospital as well.
Yeah. Just as an overview, the main industry here is forestry. That's why we have 5 orthopaedic consultants, because that's the most dangerous, as you would know, industry to be in. And we've had also, I think we're one of the highest per population playing competitive club sports. So that creates a lot of injuries, as I know, because one of the first years this year just done her Achilles, Achilles. So she's off work for a little bit. So yeah.
Is there any training you can do there? I'm assuming you're meaning kind of positions you can step into after your house obviously years. So the options are basically, if you're interested in medicine, you can step up to be a medical registrar in Gisborne. Gisborne is accredited as a training centre for basic training for 1 year. So you've basically you can step up for 1 year and that'll count towards your training. Anything after that won't. Currently, there's no other training positions that you can immediately step into, although they have been talking about a junior surgical registrar position. At the moment, they're both filled by more senior registrars currently, but I think they have talked about
I think there is one non-training surgery, and he's PGY3, right?
John.
Yeah. Oh, I might be wrong. But there's a set trainee. Obviously, you can't do that in year 3. There is also ophthalmology position if you're interested in ophthalmology. It's part-time, 0.8 FTE, and that is actually a position they do try and promote as much as they can. The New Zealand docs that are interested in that speciality, so that's definitely the other, I guess, and GP in town.
Yeah.
Joining the GP program.
So we've got 3 of our second year house officers have just stepped into the GP training program as PGY3s.
Yeah.
And our position that Nat's talking about is often filled by PGY3s. So yeah, a few options there. I think that's all our questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys do your rosters 28 days in advance, right? So what's the leave application process like?
Well, I tell you what, this is how it works. The more organised you are, the more likely you will get your leave. Because before I write rosters, I ask everyone for their preferred weekends on and off.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people want to work a particular weekend so that they're not using annual leave. They're using their RDOs and having 4 days off. So that's done, all coordinated all together. The medical education leave is asked for as much as possible all at once at the beginning of the year. I have 4 rosters in draft at any given time, and I plot them out. As yet, we haven't declined medical education leave. We're pretty good with that, to tell you the truth. So lots of the docs do courses and exams and everything in their second year. But so anyhow, before I write the roster, as I said, I ask for all the leave, weekends on and off, and I fit it all together. And basically, generally speaking, you pretty much get what you ask for as far as leave.
I think the consensus is that Gisborne is probably one of the best places to work in terms of getting leave requests accepted. I don't think I've had a single request declined, and most of the house officers would say the same. And then, yeah, as Nat was saying, MEL leave, so the medical education leave in second year, we have a really amazing access to that. Almost, well, every PGY2 will get to do minimum the APLS course, Advanced Paediatric Life Support, because you're covering peds at night, and then normally the basic intensive care course in Hawke's Bay as well. So
yeah, they're kind of the stock standard ones that everyone go for. But some people are doing musculoskeletal machine diploma. A couple of them.
The paediatric diploma, 2 people will do. And then there's also a couple of focus ultrasound courses that people are doing as well. So we're pretty lucky here. Yeah.
There's a couple of people have done GSSE. Someone asked for surgical diploma, anatomy diploma, that was accepted, but they withdrew from that. So, but as I said, it's considered on a case-by-case basis, MEL, but it's very rare for it to be declined, quite frankly.
Is it true that there are no nights for the whole of our first year? That is indeed true.
Yeah.
The basis for that was obviously that we didn't have registrar cover at night previously, so it was pretty unsafe to have a first year covering a hospital on their own. We've now got registrar cover at night.
There is some talk of it.
Yeah.
I personally, I still don't think it's a good idea, and will probably present that as such. One of the reasons for me is it's going to, it's to do with rostering and that. I think it may pull the relievers who will be needed to be on the floor. I'm not really sure. I spoke with the CMO about it because we've just had medical council accreditation. They asked about it. So I said that would be a decision if it was in fact going to happen. There would have to be a lot of consultation about that if we did change to first years doing nights. So at this stage, no, and I'm pretty sure it will still be that for your whole of next year, that's a no. You'll still not be doing nights in your first year.
Do you often end up working overtime, or do you usually finish on time? We're actually really lucky. We get pretty used to finishing at 4 o'clock or pretty close to. So our hours in general are pretty good. And we also don't start early. Like the earliest handover is a 7:45 surgical handover. Medical handovers at 8 o'clock. So we've got kind of pretty lucky in terms of bigger centres where the surgical rounds are often starting a lot earlier than that. So our hours are pretty good in general.
Is Hauora Tairāwhiti computer-based or paper-based with a lot of its work?
We're paper-based, yeah, essentially. We've just had a new computer system come in, the Midland Clinical Portal, which is a bit more advanced in a lot of ways, and we've got more online access to clinic letters, and we can also access the Waikato DHB clinical portal as well, which is great for us because they are obviously main referring hospital. But we are largely paper-based, and we have paper medical charts and that sort of thing. Yeah. Obviously, that will maybe up to change with the health system reform coming up. So.
Yeah.
Well, kia ora, Natalie, and kei te pai, Emily. Thanks very much for coming along, and it's nice to see you both again. And thanks for coming along and just talking to us a little bit about what it's like to live and work in Gisborne, and for providing your insight and knowledge and your experience that with regards to looking after the RMOs that work at your hospitals. So we're really happy about that, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and enjoy your weekend as well. And Emily, all the best for the remainder of your PGY2 year as well.
Thanks, Quentin.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us to the TIs. Good luck with your first choice, wherever that may be.
Haere rā. Have a good night.
Thanks,
You
Quentin.
too.
Bye.
Bye.